Most of the way that we are taught to study in many places, especially Gen X, we were taught you go to the book, you read, then you get to the test, and then you start answering the questions. And remember these? Gen Z, this is called a textbook.
Don't do that.
This is the internet on paper for this particular topic.
Bruh.
Take a picture. It's really heavy. There isn't necessarily strategy taught because we're very, very focused on content. I've had students take the MCAT 4 times. They're getting ready to take it a 5th time. And I asked them, like, did you study the first 4 times? Yes, I studied. I'm like, then how is this a content issue? How could you actually study for something 4 freaking times and not know the content? This is not a content issue. Yeah. This is a strategy issue.
All right, everyone. What's good? It's Dr. Nii, joined by
Dr. Renee.
Shout out to everybody. We got Dr. Goolsby, who's on. Dr. Goolsby, you all the way still in Tennessee? We won't be all the way in Tennessee, but anyway.
Goolsby.
We all the way here in New Jersey.
Classmate.
From class of 2006.
Boop, boop, boop.
How y'all doing? So we are doing another live, and we're going to talk about 2 questions today. These are questions from everybody who has submitted, questions to us through text or email or DM'd us.
Mm-hmm.
And today we're going to be focusing on work-life balance for surgeons and the best route to become a surgeon. So these questions have been in the queue for a minute. And
why would anybody ever want to become a surgeon?
Aren't you a surgeon?
I'm not a general surgeon.
So how do you know what they're talking about?
Okay, well, then we can just cut this short right now.
Because all I'm saying is if you're ready to say that you're a surgeon, then your name or what you do is in that whole wheelhouse of being a surgeon. So claim it when it's good, claim it when it's bad. Thank you. Move on. All right. Y'all was good. So listen, just real quick before we jump into these questions, I just want to say shout out to everyone that I met at the Ghana Physicians and Surgeons Foundation. That is an amazing organization that is in its 21st year. It's a way for all of the physicians who are here in the United States, who are from Ghana, who have went to medical school in Ghana, or who are from Ghanaian descent, to have a connection with everyone back home. And it was a great conference. We got an opportunity to do some education. We get CME. We also get an opportunity to sponsor medical students from Ghana as well as residents from Ghana and bring them here to the United States and do some observership as well as get some additional education. And then the same thing goes vice versa, where we go over there and do some medical mission work or even get an opportunity to do some education also. So I was there for 2 days. Your boy was a moderator. And I got a chance to introduce some really high-powered surgeons as well as medical doctors who are doing work here in the United States and then taking some of those research or some of those ideas and taking it overseas to Ghana and, really trying to just make the country better. So that was great. I was tired, but it was great. I had a good time. So...
I want to just say that Dr. Goolsby just said, oh, never mind. I thought this was going to be about how I was such a huge influence on you. That's next episode.
Yeah. Keep waiting for that one.
Hi, Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper joined us.
Okay.
Awesome.
We also got Dr. Halima. Oh, we got Halima on here.
Dr. Angela Freehill Brown.
So
awesome.
So let's keep it moving. So that was a really good experience. And like I said, the other thing that I really enjoyed about that was getting a chance to meet the young physicians. Like, I'm an OG now, considering, because I've been in this organization for 10 years.
Yeah, you old.
And I remember 10 years ago, like, looking at all these old surgeons and old docs, like, when y'all gonna get out the way and let us be leaders in this organization? And now it's our turn. So people who, I grew up with, they're now taking over leadership positions. And you're getting to see new residents. You're getting to see... I got a chance to see, like, young doctors out there, and they're like, yeah, we listen to Docs Outside the Box. We really enjoy the show.
But
no, they didn't say there was no buts.
But
there was no buts.
You don't. What would they say you don't do? They say you don't do something.
I didn't catch that. What do you mean?
They say there's something that you said that they said that you don't do.
Oh, you got to fill me in. I forgot.
What about their questions?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they say I don't answer their questions.
Which is why you doing this live.
Yeah, so I got to do a better job of answering the questions. So we get a lot of questions. I just don't. It's just busy, busy. It's not that I'm ignoring you guys. It's just that life happens. So shout out to everyone on Instagram. Shout out to everyone on YouTube. Shout out to everyone who else in Facebook that we're looking at. And then obviously when this episode goes out, shout out to everyone who's listening also. So,
who's on? Oh, my student is on. Deshaun is on. Let's see who else. Dr. Love is on. That's right. We rocking the Alcara today. Yes, he is. He is. Let's make it happen. All right. What's our
All right. So we got a question. The first question we got is, what's the best route to become a surgeon? Why don't you click on that? And why don't you go right here? Let's read this question that someone wrote into us. So they say, hey, man, we met at this facility a couple of years ago. Not sure if you remember. How are things? Looks like all is well. I wanted to ask you, what is the best route to becoming a surgeon right now? I'm 38, but I need to advance myself in career. I've been a surgical tech since I was 20. If you have any tips, advice, and pathways you can enlighten me to, would be a blessing. God bless you. And this is from PN. We'll just leave it at that. PN. So basically, sounds like someone who is interested in becoming a surgeon and, has spent 18 years in the operating room being a surgical tech, and they want to know what's the best route to becoming a surgeon. So, I mean, at that point, someone who's been there 18 years, they've seen what surgeons do from all walks of life. They've seen orthopedic surgeons, general, OB, neurosurgeons, and it looks like with all this 18 years of experience, they want to be a surgeon.
Yeah.
So,
poor thing.
I think at this age, I don't think there's any quick, fast ways to do it.
No.
Right? It's going to take you 4 years of med school, and it's going to take you several years of whatever residency that is surgical in nature to get through that.
And that depends, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we don't know necessarily where this person is starting out in terms of their bachelor's, right? Do they have the prerequisites? So it might not just start at 4 years of medical school. It might mean going back and doing those pre-med prerequisites.
I also think the other question that I would ask is why? Why do you want to switch it up? What are you looking for? Are you looking to kind of change things up? Like, do you really want to be a doctor or do you want to be a surgeon? Right? Like, there's a difference, right? Because part of being a surgeon is just accepting that you're a doctor and you have to understand all aspects of medicine. It's not just being in the operating room, right? Mm-hmm. So are you interested in that? Are you interested in being a physician assistant who maybe assists someone in the operating room, right? Like there's so many ways that we can go in this, but let's assume that you wanted to become a doctor, right? I think we start with what you're saying, which is where are you at in terms of getting your prerequisites for getting into medical school, right? What you want to talk more about that? Because that's your wheelhouse. Like if someone came to you, because you deal with a lot of non-traditional students.
Yes. Mostly non-traditional students. So, so I've been dealing with non-traditional students, helping them get into medical school for about
18 years.
Over 20 years. Where you get 18 from?
Because he said 18.
Because he said 18. Okay. Well, so, so the way that this breaks out, right? So whether you're a traditional or non-traditional student, you're going to have to take the prerequisites for the most part. There are some schools that have put the prerequisites by the wayside, but that's not most schools. Most schools are going to require certain courses, and those courses are bio 1 and 2, general chemistry 1 and 2, organic chemistry 1 and 2, physics 1 and 2, English 1 and 2. Right? There are going to be other schools that might require biochemistry, calculus, genetics. That's going to vary by school. But regardless of whether or not you are a traditional or non-traditional student, those are the main courses that you're going to have to take. And like I said, it might vary from school to school, but you will not go wrong taking those courses that I just mentioned because that's going to be, for the most part, that's ubiquitous in, the prerequisite to going to medical school.
And then what's the other big step that they got to focus on?
So the other big step, or there are other big steps, right? But I gather that you were talking about taking the MCAT, right? Okay, so you're going to have to take the medical college admission test, which is called the MCAT. So that's the test, again, that most schools are going to require. Again, some schools putting it by the wayside, not all schools, but some schools are putting it by the wayside. That's very few and far between. But I would say you can't go wrong taking that test, if you're looking to apply to most medical schools in the country.
As you're talking, I'm going to try to share the screen. So.
Uh-oh. Nii going to try to share screen. Good
Keep going.
Lord.
Keep going.
But anyway, the other things that you're going to have to do, right? Shadow a doctor, at least. And not like let's get it straight, people. Like when we say shadow a doctor, don't show up and be like, I did my 4 hours. Okay. Can I get that letter of recommendation? That's not the way that goes.
Real quick on here, this is a list of the common pre-med courses or prerequisites that you'd have to take. So this is the college English, college mathematics, biology, physics. Chemistry could be either inorganic or general chemistry, right?
Yeah.
And then organic chemistry and biochemistry.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So prerequisites are, these are courses, they don't necessarily need to, he doesn't need to graduate with a degree in biology or chemistry or biochemistry.
Correct.
Or PChem.
Correct.
Or, this.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's one of the mistakes that a lot of pre-meds make. A lot of pre-meds make it, especially, right? Because you think, okay, well, this is medicine, then I have to be a science major. I made that mistake, right? I made the mistake of thinking that I had to be a science major in order to go to medical school. If I had to do it all over again, I probably would have been a theater major because I really enjoyed my theater classes. It's true. That's what I would have done.
From the Flames. Yo, if anybody knows what I'm talking about, From the Flames. What show is that from, yo?
Let me just tell you, the day after that episode aired, everybody was like, oh my God, that's you. That's you. I was like, I did not see it. Till this day, I don't see it.
You kind of look like her. Too.
No. Anyway, I don't see it. But yeah, that's the mistake a lot of pre-meds make. You do not have to be a science major. Now, what people ask is, well, aren't most students who go into medical school science majors? Yes, they are. They absolutely are. But that's probably because most people think they have to be. Okay. So that's kind of like, you do not have to be a science major and you don't get any extra points for being a science major. I just want people to know that because we have one really good friend of ours who I think she was a woman's study or I forget what it was, but she was not a science major. She was, I think, in women's history or something like that. Mm-hmm. She got into Johns Hopkins. So you don't get any extra points for being a science major before going to medical school or to medical school admissions committees. Okay. So that's something that's really important to know. And as a matter of fact, the stranger your major is, the more you probably will stand out and actually have something to talk about because who want to talk to a freaking 5,000 science majors? Like,
yeah, so I think for the person who wrote in, like, I think the key thing is now you have to start developing, like, you have to start putting in the reps to determine, like, if this is really for you, like, what kind of reps you're going to put in, right? And the reps are going to be, these are the courses that they're going to need you to take in order to get into medical school. And then, you don't necessarily need a science degree. You just need to take the proper science courses to get in. Question, they need a degree, right?
Yes, the school. So you don't need a degree to apply, but you will most likely need a degree in order to be admitted.
Gotcha.
So I think most schools actually have that as a caveat. Like you can apply and you can get accepted, but by the time you matriculate, you had to have finished your degree.
Okay, so what about somebody who's working? Once again, you work with a lot of non-traditional students. Mm-hmm. The person who's working like this type of job, like, will it be hard for them to do, for example, like physics and orgo in the same semester? Or do you recommend doing something that will allow them to keep moving forward and still getting the grades that they should be getting? And also, what kind of grades on average should they be getting in their prereqs?
I mean, you should try to get as good a grade as you possibly can, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that A everybody wants, right?
Right.
That's really what you want to go for. Do you absolutely have to have a 4.0 to get into medical school? Hell no. Okay, you don't need a 4.0 to get into medical school.
Can you say that again?
Hell no. Okay. So you don't need a 4.0 to get into medical school. So
Christina Alfonso says, yep, I'm proof of that. Older, non-traditional. In college, I was not pre-med and double majored in poli-sci and philosophy.
There you go. See that?
See, you actually would have done better becoming a politician because Lord knows we need better candidates.
She still can.
Yeah, well.
She still can. So especially we need a lot of medical politicians, right? So, or at least politicians with some medical knowledge. But you absolutely don't need to get a 4.0. So if your pre-med advisor is telling you that you don't have a 4.0 or, oh, I'm sorry, you failed this class and that will forever determine the entire trajectory of your entire life, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay? So just beware. We need to, anyway.
All right. So,
yes.
So, okay. And then did you talk about the MCAT? I know we mentioned the MCAT.
Yeah, we mentioned the MCAT.
But he absolutely has to take the MCAT.
For the most part, yes. A great majority of schools will require the MCAT. If you don't take the MCAT, then you most likely will not be able to apply to many schools.
So for someone like him, do you recommend him doing his prerequisites first, then taking the MCAT?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so this is a mistake that a lot of pre-meds make, is that they try to take the MCAT before they finish their prereqs, right? On very rare occasion, can a pre-med do something like that? I do not recommend that strategy for most pre-meds.
Okay.
Some pre-meds can get away with it. For him, I would say no. He would have to take his prereqs first. Mm-hmm. He's been doing this, and I'm assuming over the last 18 years, he has not done any prerequisite courses. So that's what I'm going to assume. Since he's been doing this since he was 20, I'm assuming it's been full time. There was no part-time student stuff going on. So let's assume that he's a blank slate. If he's a blank slate and he has no college education, then at that point he would have to go to college. He would have to go to college, right? He'd have to get a 4-year degree. Take those prereqs, right? Take those prereqs while he's in college. And then, right, take the MCAT during that time also while he's in college and, around before he takes the MCAT, shadowing a doctor. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, he has been around a lot of surgeons. So a lot of schools may take that experience and say, listen, you've been working in the clinical realm. We will count that as shadowing. As well as your clinical experience. Obviously, he has lots of clinical experience, almost 20 years worth of clinical experience. The other thing that I would say is that he would need to look for some volunteer work.
Gotcha.
Right? Look for something.
Even as do volunteer work, yes. He's working in a medical field.
Yes, you're getting paid.
Why does he have to do volunteer work?
That's what they require. Really? Yeah. That's what they required.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So doing volunteer work, right? Now, that being said, so you asked a valid point, right? Some schools may say, right, or some admissions committees may say, let's give him a break because he's been doing this for so long, X, Y, and Z. That's a gamble that you take, right? To be able to explain that you've been working and you've been doing all these things. But a lot of schools want to see that there is an altruistic nature where there isn't an exchange of money for the work and the service that you are doing. Mm-hmm. So in that case, I do recommend to my pre-med students, do some volunteer work because you don't know when an admissions committee is or is not going to excuse the fact that you were working.
So I was kind of looking, when I was looking at this question, I didn't want to get too far into the weeds because I think sometimes if we get too far into the weeds, it ends up being a longer episode than is really necessary. Mm-hmm. So I think overall, though, like what kind of investment is he looking at let's say, for example, he did take some college courses, right? And now he needs to take prerequisites. He needs to take the MCAT, and then possibly, he'll start applying and interviewing. How much do you think he's looking at in terms of applying? Like the
Oh, you
expenditure?
mean, okay, so outside of tuition.
Yeah, before tuition.
Right.
To apply to medical school.
Yeah. So, no, I'm saying outside of tuition of college.
Correct. Yes.
Right? Because there's going to be a cost, right? And Dr. Love, he also says prereqs can be knocked out in 2 years. Absolutely.
That's what I was looking to find.
Yeah.
Yes.
Your prereqs can be knocked out in 2 years, especially if you are a post-bac student, right? And you take those 2 years and you just knock them out. But even if you are, in college, you can knock them out in 2 years. Now, if you are working while you are trying to knock out your prereqs, that might change your timeline a little bit.
Got you. But how much should he expect to...
So I think a few years ago, I calculated things are a little bit different now. But I would say between $3,000 and $5,500. Things are a little bit...
That's to apply,
take the MCAT.
Does that include interviewing, like going on?
Yes, that was including the interviewing and things like that. Things have changed a little bit now because since COVID, people are doing interviews online. Some students...
That's still expensive, though.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, but remember that was a few years ago. That's like pre-COVID numbers. So now you remove all of the traveling that students would do, it would significantly decrease that cost, right? So that cost may not necessarily even be up to $5,500 anymore.
Gotcha.
So you might be looking at, I don't know, maybe $2,000, especially if you're like, well, I'm going to take an MCAT course. I'm going to take it online. Those are not as expensive as taking a live course.
Okay, so let's say he starts that process. Let's say he starts his application at a certain set time. How long will that process take to apply, start getting interviews, and then find out when he got in, provided everything kind of moves smoothly? How long is that process?
So let's say he's, at the point of applying. Many students will start their application process in June.
Okay.
Right? The application opens up. It's changed actually over a couple of years.
Oh.
But
Christina Alfonso says moving interviews to Zoom has brought down the cost a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So the application opens every year between June 15 and July 1st. I think the osteopathic one, they opened it up a little bit earlier in the last couple of years. But usually between June 15 and July 1st, that's when the application process absolutely opens up. And the schools are sent a common application. So that's the first step, is that you as a student would have to would have to fill out a common application. Once you fill out that common application, some schools are going to automatically send you a secondary application. So don't get too excited if you get one from a school
but without getting too far in it, like, what are we talking about? From applying all the way to, are we talking 6 months, a year? Like, how long will it take him to find out?
We're talking from that's June to anywhere. Usually, most students find out at the most by April. From June, July to April. So almost a year.
So they find out in April, school won't start until
August usually.
August. So we're talking about close about 13 months from starting applying all the way to actually being in medical school.
Yeah.
And then once you're in med school, bro, then it's 4 years of med school. And during that time, you're getting all the experiences that you may want to get. You never know. You may want to become a pediatrician during that whole process, or you may want to go into, internal medicine or ER or what have you, right? And then after the 4 years, then that's when it's time for you to decide what residency you want to go into, which we are assuming you want to go into some type of surgical field. Okay. And that can be anywhere from, the shortest surgical training is OB, right? That's 4 years?
4 years.
4 years, all the way up to the longest can be cardiothoracic and plastic surgery, which can be, 19 years, right? Like, it's just whatever you want to do. Then you can finish cardiothoracic surgery, and then they tell you, you know what? The interventional cardiologist is doing all your stuff. Oh, what? And all you're doing is just rib plating. Oh.
You can finish your residency in neurosurgery and it'll be time to retire. Look at there.
But for someone who's 38, the other thing to consider is, listen, we got to be considerate of like age. That's what I would say too. If age is that big of a deal, then, going into becoming a PA and then becoming a surgical assistant is something that you can consider also. PA school is only realistically about, it's like 2.5
years.
It's like 2.5
years total if you don't have a bachelor's, because you need a master's in order to become a PA.
Well, PA school is about 2.5 to 3 years. Right. Mm-hmm. And then PAs don't have residency. So you jump right into on-the-job training. Right. So in essence, like an apprenticeship.
Right.
And in that situation, you can, find yourself with a surgeon who will train you how to do this. There are some surgery residencies for PAs that you can do also. But, 2.5 years of PA training versus 4 years of medical school training, that's not that big of a difference. Ultimately, the way how I always look at it from how to decide between PA and becoming a doctor is how much responsibility you want. That's how I always look at it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If you want the most responsibility, then go to med school. If you really want the experiences and you don't want that much responsibility, and that's fine, go to PA school. That's the way I always tell people how to do it and stuff. And then make sure you shadow both and really find out the ins and outs of both and then go from there. But I know plenty of PAs who are attached to surgeons, orthopods, neurosurgeons, general surgeons, and they are loving their life. They are closing. They are helping.
Have to stop with them.
Right. They are doing really, great things with the surgeon there, and they're getting their fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And they ain't got to do weekends, right? So
this is true.
So it's really up to you. So that's what we would say. For me, the best route to become a surgeon is, either, decide, one, that you want to be a doctor and just know that this is a long haul. If you want to be a surgeon, you're going to be doing at least 4 years of med school and at least 4 years of residency, not to mention the years of trying to get your prerequisites, which Dr. Renee, as well as Dr. Love, said is going to be an additional 2.5 years. So that's putting you realistically in that, if you decide to go in your late 40s, possibly early 50s, which is fine. We've seen people do that.
The oldest person in our class was 50 years old when she started.
Right. But she didn't go into surgery, though. She went into family medicine.
She went into family, right.
She went into family medicine, which is only 3 years. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, what I say to you, man, is just keep the dream going. You never know. If you decide to go to medical school, you may get exposed to other things, and you're just like, I actually don't want to be a surgeon. I want to go into something else, and you will get just as much fulfillment out of that.
Underwater basket weaving, right, Dr. Love?
In medical school. In med school. What med school are you going to that's teaching you
that? Your medical school.
So, PN, thank you very much for that question. If you want something more in depth, just hit us up and let us know. Anybody who has anything to add to us, put in the chat. Let us know what you think, whether it's on Instagram or it's on YouTube.
They're having some really good comments.
Yeah.
So Christina, go up. Yeah. She says, I agree. Much better to take prereqs first before the MCAT. It'll make your studying so much less miserable if you have good foundation in sciences, and you can focus more on strategy. Exactly. And let me tell you, that's something that a lot of people don't realize, is that the MCAT, very heavily strategy based, but
What makes it so strategy based, real quick though?
It's a standardized test, right? And so what people don't understand about standardized tests is that it's standardized based on people, largely anyway, based on people's behaviors, right? The aggregate of people's behaviors. That's what makes it standardized. It's not so much just the content. So, for example, when, with my group, when we do our MCAT prep, right? Usually we'll tell the students, read the questions first and then do the passage. Nobody believes us, but it's like, read the questions first, and then do the passage.
Why read the questions first?
Because some of those questions don't appear in the passage.
Oh.
They're standalone questions that they put in like after the passage. But you so busy thinking, well, let me read this passage because it's going to give me everything that I need. It's like, no, it's not. It's not going to give you everything that you need. And as a matter of fact, we do something where our instructor, he will go through, take out all of the freestanding questions that appear under a passage, and he will give it to the students to answer. And then he'll say, hey, all of these appeared in a passage.
I think it wasn't until I got into residency and I had to start taking the ABSITE, which is basically a board exam that you take every year. I think every specialty has it. But for surgery, it's called ABSITE. And I didn't realize the strategy involved with taking the test. Excuse me. I didn't even understand the strategy involved with studying for the test.
Right.
I didn't know that the majority of this stuff, you really don't want to go to review books to like get knowledge. You just need to do questions. And even though you get a whole bunch wrong, when you find out what the right answer is, in essence, that's you studying.
Yeah.
I didn't understand any of that stuff until like my first year I took that test. I did horrible. And then the second year I had an attending who taught me how to do more questions, leave the reading for later on, or just do like really concise reading based off of the questions that I got wrong.
Yep.
And my score went up like 70% to the 70 percentile, which was big for me. And I think I'm wondering, like, do you think a lot of it has to do, like, particularly people who didn't take AP courses in high school? Do you think that like that sets you up for like not doing well on standardized courses? Because the reason I say that is like when you take AP courses, you're constantly studying for a test. You're not really studying to understand. Well, are you really studying
to understand? But I don't know the answer to that specifically with regards to the AP courses. I can't say that, but I will say that most of the way that we are taught to study in many places around this country is that, especially Gen X, we were taught you go to the book, you read, then you get to the test, and then you start answering the questions. And remember these? So Gen Z, this is called a textbook. Why
are you doing that to them? Don't do that.
This is the internet on paper for this particular topic.
Bruh.
All right?
They know what a textbook is.
Take a picture, Gen Z. Take a picture. Okay. This is a textbook. It's really heavy. Right?
Why are you doing that to them?
Because they don't know what a textbook is. So yeah, I think that there isn't necessarily strategy taught because we're very, very focused on content. I've had students take the MCAT, I swear, have taken the MCAT like 4 times. They're getting ready to take it a 5th time. And I asked them, like, did you study the first 4 times? Yes, I studied. I'm like, then how is this a content issue? How could you actually study for something 4 freaking times and not know the content? This is not a content issue. Yeah. This is a strategy issue. So,
okay.
People
so as with most standardized tests, there's a strategy to really do well on the test and stuff. So
I mean, they know what pitfalls you're gonna fall into, and they set you up, and then here you go, minding your own business, you fall right into the pitfall.
All right, PN, thank you very PN, thank you very much for writing in for that question. I hope we answered the best route to become a surgeon. Hopefully you end up choosing being a general surgeon because that's the best surgical field out there.
It's all right.
Next question. Work-life balance for a surgeon. I'm not even going to read this question.
Non-existent.
I'm just going to say non-existent.
That's not true.
All right. So someone wrote, hey, long time no talk. I'm in the process now of deciding what field of medicine that I want to do. I'm really interested in surgery, specifically trauma, and almost can't see myself doing anything else at this point. However, I wanted to know from the attending side of things, how is your work-life balance? What's an average schedule for you? And do you feel like you have enough time for family and other things that you enjoy?
Who's it from?
That is from J.A.
Yes.
Don't do that to him. Don't do that to him. Come on now. We gotta respect the people right now. Don't do that to him. Don't do that to him.
You could have said his first name and then his first initial of his last name.
That's why I just said J.A.
I said, but J.A. sounds like jackass.
That's his initials, J.A.
That's fine.
So listen, thank you for writing in. This is a very good question. So I'm a trauma surgeon, and I think the majority of trauma surgeons over the last 10 years, if not longer, we've transitioned to something that textbooks got online versions. She ain't wrong. Show them. Oh, before we move on, hold on. Guys.
You went back to the textbook.
This is what, and then if you're African.
No. Like this.
Then you got to do this.
No.
Right?
You got to hold it in your hand.
You got to do this. You have to hold it, be on your knees if you're being punished by your parents. You got to do this. You didn't have to do this?
No, it's this. It's not on your head. It's on your hand.
Right.
You have to hold it up like this.
Dr. Love, did you have to do this? I don't know.
And two textbooks.
Do Nigerians do that too?
You on your knees, your hands are out. The textbooks are on your hands. That's how.
You didn't have to put your hand in the fire?
Nobody made you put your hand in the fire.
You have to put your hand in the fire. If you're lying, then if you put your hand in the fire, then it won't burn you. You never heard that?
Yes, I have heard that.
Okay.
But I never got my hand put in a daggone fire, knee. Whatever.
My question is not related to surgery, but what advice would you give to recently matched and soon to start the intern year? All right, we got you. Hold on a second. Let's answer this question real quick. So, head for me, not the hand. I told you, you're not African. How you know? Just move, man. Let's get out of here, man. Get some hands, though. True Africans know what I'm talking about when you get punished. Huh? You go on your knees, they put something here, and you do this too. Come on, stop.
Y'all got it easy on your head. You can carry mad weight on your head.
Listen, man, come on, yo. You don't know. You don't know.
Carry mad weight.
We got some trauma. We got some trauma in our lives.
Nothing. This is way harder.
There
hands are way
trauma
harder
in our lives, and there's certain things that we just don't forget.
A trauma surgeon to cut out your trauma.
All right, so work-life balance. Come on, let's get to a work-life balance. Look, I'm gonna be really honest with you. With trauma surgery is definitely shift work, and I love it. Ask any ER doc, ask any trauma surgeon, ask any hospitalist. In essence, I come in, my day starts either at 7 a.m., and if it starts at 7 a.m., I'm done at 7 p.m. If it starts at 7 p.m., then I'm done the next morning at 7 a.m. And during that 12-hour span, I get like a sign out from the person who just finished, and they let me know about all the things that have happened, everybody who has surgery, everybody who needs surgery. And during those 12 hours, I take care of everything that needs to occur. Any surgical emergencies, I do rounding if it's during the daytime. I go to clinic if it's during the daytime, and, just try to get it all done. And then once my 12 hours are done, off to the next one. Now, let's say, for example, it's like hour 11 and I have to do like an appendectomy, right? Like I don't just leave in the middle of the case and then my partner takes over. Doesn't work like that. We don't do that. That's really extreme, right? Even if I start a surgery, at hour 11 and I got like 5 hours, it's a 5-hour surgery. I'm not going to leave. My partner will come in and help me during that case and so forth, but we don't do stuff like that. But at the end of my 12-hour shift, I'm done. Nobody can ask me for consults. Nobody can get to me. My phone is off, actually. And the only person who can reach me is the surgeon who's coming on. He or she can reach me. And then also the physician assistant who's new coming on also. And then the next 12 hours, I'm resting or catching up on things that I need to catch up on. When I do my work, I'm traveling. I'm in a hotel, so those next 12 hours I'm FaceTiming or, WhatsApp with my wife and the kids. I'm talking with family. I'm exercising. I'm working on my nutrition. I'm working on the podcast. I'm working on CME. I'm just catching up on a lot of things that I need to catch up on. And I do that for about a straight week, and then I'll be off for a week, and then I'll come back and hit it again for a straight week. And for me, that's been the best way to balance being a doc, being a husband, and being a dad. Is it perfect? Hell no. Is there balance? Hell no. There's no such thing as balance. I'm going to tell you this right now. I know people who work less than me and they still have worse, outcomes and stuff, right? Because you prioritize what's important to you, right? Okay. So for me, what I prioritize for me is first my family and then my career. Right. And I make sure that I try to give, equal attention to both, but you can never, right? I just make sure, or the most important thing is that I have an understanding wife. I have, kids who are starting to really understand what we do for a living. And, we just try to do our best, right? And not everything's going to be perfect. There's going to be some sacrifices. Some things are going to fall by the wayside. But in essence, that's my schedule. And I've been doing that for over 10 years now, and it works. And I like it. That schedule, probably up until 7 years ago when we were paying off debt, it was a little bit busier than that, right? So when we were paying off our debt, I was pulling in like crazy shifts.
Yeah.
Right. So the way how we did that is Renee was part-time and I was full-time when we had a ton of debt. We lived off of her part-time salary. And then we used all of my salary and then all the extra work that she did as a locums and then all the extra work that I did as a locums. And we put that all towards the debt. And we were able to pay off our debt in 3 years. That's $662,000. And then once that was done, then I kind of slowed down a little bit after a couple of years. I had to slow down a little bit. And that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
So
would you say that that's pretty typical, the way that you work? That's pretty typical for most trauma surgeons?
Yes. Yeah, I think that most trauma surgeons will find that the shift work model works the best for patient care, right? Because if you do a long stretch, I'm talking about 24 hours, or if you do, like a weekend straight, where you're making, with no time off, what you end up having is decision fatigue, where everybody's calling you for everything, right? And so you either want to have that for 12 hours or do you want to have that for 72 hours? And I think that's really tough because the decisions that you're going to make at hour 2, hour 5, hour 7 are definitely, those decisions are going to be a little bit different and skewed at hour 34, 48. And definitely close to 72.
Work avoidance for the sake of energy conservation.
So you got to be really careful about that. So for me, I don't do anything more than 12-hour shifts anymore. I just don't, because it's just better for me. It's better for patients, and that's the way I like it. So if you're deciding on what you want to do, I would just make sure that you try your best to shadow as many specialties as possible. Talk to as many people as possible. When I did general surgery, I really enjoyed general surgery, but there was this one thing about trauma that I just really liked. It's really exciting. And but that excitement only lasts for so long, right? Like, you can't be in your 60s being excited about what's going to come in.
You done seen it all by then,
then. But the thing about trauma surgery for me is there's a versatility that it has that you don't really get a chance to see in other specialties. So with trauma surgery, you're trained for critical care, so you can just see intensive care patients if you want to, right? Just like hospital or intense, pulmonary critical care docs can. So you could just be in the ICU if you want to. You can just do general surgery if you want to, and you could just do trauma if you want to, right? So there's 3 separate things that you can do.
If you're doing trauma, you're most likely doing ICU.
Not necessarily, right? Because there's still trauma centers that use general surgeons who do trauma.
That's true. But they don't do the
But
ICU.
they don't do the ICU, right?
Yeah.
So you can still get away with that depending on what state you're in, depending on what type of trauma center that you're at, that you can still do that. So you have a lot of variability in what you can do. So
Interesting. Hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah. So the last part is, do you make enough time for your family and other things that you enjoy? So I'll leave it to you. Do I make enough time for y'all? Putting you on the spot.
I know.
Hey,
you do.
Putting you on the spot. Putting you on the spot.
You want to beat with that?
Putting you on the spot. Hey, putting you on the spot. Hey, putting you on the spot. Hey, on the spot. Hey.
Oh no! Don't start that dance challenge again.
No, don't work.
With your Ankara on, but whatever. So no, you do. You make enough time. There was a point at which you were working a lot more than I think you needed to work. When you were pulling like those 18-day stretches and things like that. That was a bit excessive. But what's nice about working as a locum tenens is that you can pull back whenever you want. So, and you pulled back pretty darn good. So you're now up to what, 7 to 10 days a month?
A little bit more than that. So a little bit more than that. So
A little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more than that.
I just gave you big ups.
All right. So Dr. Love says,
I check your schedule.
Why I never understood why general surgery docs do 48-hour weekends and such. Yeah. So, yeah, that part I don't get. But you do that too, right? So you do.
I do a 62-hour. But see, mine is different.
Fuck that.
No, mine is a little bit different, right? Especially depending on where I am. So I do a 62-hour stretch. So Friday evening into Monday morning. But I tend to choose facilities that have a certain number of deliveries, that have a certain level of care that I know it can only get but so busy, right? So it's not like trauma surgery. Like your service and my service, they can get busy, but the way my service gets busy is very different than the way your service gets busy, right? If I end up having a lot of deliveries, don't forget, right? There is rest usually in between, right? I'm not, in the room with a patient when she's 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters, 6 centimeters, 7, like I don't have to be there for every single centimeter, right? That's what the nurses essentially do. They monitor the patients and they're, doing the one-on-one with the patients kind of every step of the way. So a patient could literally, be there. I check her, she's, let's say 4 centimeters, and I can come back, a few hours later and check her again. So I don't need to be there, every single hour, or every single minute of her labor. So that's the difference. If you have somebody actively dying, like you have to be there with that person.
Yeah, I get it.
So that's a little bit different. So I can actually get rest even though I have active patients.
Got you. All right, let's move on to this last question from Don Marco 2, who says, my question is not related to surgery, but what advice would you give to recently matched and soon to start the intern year? So first of all, shout out to you, Don Marco. Congratulations for matching. That's really dope. That's a big deal. That goes without saying mad props to you. All right. And soon to start the intern year. So intern year is going to be one of the toughest transitions to go from to go from med school to being an intern. That is really tough.
What specialty is it? If you're still on down.
Yeah, let us know what specialty you wanted to.
What specialty is it? Let us know.
I think the biggest barrier for me was, man, I don't know. I got to think about that, man, because it was just a lot of shit, man. Just going from med school to,
let's just put it like this. Dr. Love said that he has to head out because he got a 6 a.m. shift tomorrow. Dr. Don Marco, you gonna be at the hospital at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, just leave it at that. Hopefully you won't be there that early, but you should be there before your attendings. I just think for me that was I really felt like I was adulting. I was adulting during that time, and that was tough, right? I finally got my first paycheck, and I had to decide what I was going to do, with getting housing, and I got to cook for myself, and I was cooking for myself before, but now I got less time to cook now, so eating out a lot, dealing with just the different personalities of the other interns, and then also dealing with the relationships of the hierarchy, which I wasn't really used to. The program or the school that we went to didn't really put us, at least the experiences that I had, it was really a lot of one-on-one working with an attending or maybe working with an attending with several medical students, but not necessarily in a formal residency program, which I don't think it really hurt me that much, but it's just
it was an adjustment.
It was an adjustment.
Yeah, it definitely was.
For you want to say something about intern year?
I think, the thing that I think you just need to know about intern year, because it can vary so much depending on your specialty, depending on the program that you're in, is that you're just going to have to be really, really flexible with what is to come. And just understand that, life is not going to look today the way that it looks tomorrow, It just is not. So if you are in medical,
internal medicine,
oh,
you got this.
Yeah, lots of rounding, rounding in
the morning, rounding in the afternoon,
rounding in the morning, rounding in the evening, rounding in the summertime.
And don't be consulting surgery. Don't be consulting surgery at like 5 o'clock in the evening, man. Save those consults. If there's something that happens at 5 o'clock in the evening, save it for night shift or save it to the next day. But look, man, I'm trying to leave.
Okay.
Internal medicine be doing that all the time. And then they order a CT scan. Y'all do this. Y'all order a CT scan in the morning. The CT scan is done by noon. Then it's read by 3. Then you consult us at like 6 o'clock. It's like, yo, I'm out the door. Just a tidbit. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, Don Marco, don't listen to any of that because you're not going to be the one making those decisions in your intern year. So, advice for someone who is newly matched would be literally to be flexible and understand that life today is not going to look like life tomorrow. So be prepared in some way, shape, or form to be shocked. But when you are shocked, right? When you are shocked, you're like, holy crap, I can't believe like what is going on. Just understand you are not alone. This is normal, okay? This is normal to be shocked into a new environment in this particular way.
Popeyes for dinner.
Yeah, you don't have to have Popeyes, but don't listen to him.
Pepsi in the morning, that's me.
That was you.
Pepsi
right?
in the morning, maybe a hard-boiled egg for breakfast real quick. Lunch was whatever was in the cafeteria. And then dinner, I was so tired. I was like, yo, Popeyes.
Okay, that's enough. He don't live in a place where he
4 chicken wings fried hard.
Okay.
Fried hard.
Okay, thank you, Wyclef.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, if you are moving to a new city, especially if you don't know that city, consider renting, not buying a home. Right? Consider renting. If you don't know the city in particular, don't go and buy somewhere because next you done bought, the most expensive house in the worst neighborhood. So just, beware of that because like your friend over here, Dr. Nii did, he went and bought a new house and 2 years later it was
I bought
it was worth a third of what he bought.
In 2006, and let's just say 2008 occurred, and I should have just rented. So that's what I would say, rent, because you don't know how your first year is going to go. You don't know how your residency is going to go. So it's cool just to rent, figure out the neighborhoods, figure out if you can bike to your place, figure out what busing routes, what car you want to use, all those different things. And then after you get through your first year, then maybe you can consider buying. And if you are going to buy, afterwards, then see if maybe you can get like some type of investment property, like a duplex or some type of townhome. And then you can get like a roommate or something like that. Something that can lower your cost and kind of help you focus on not only just, paying out something, but also building something if you decide to do that.
Right.
That's what I would say.
About student loan debt.
After 6 months, they come in. But yeah, they will come after your 6 months, right?
What you gonna do when they come for you?
They'll send you a coupon book or they'll do it online, but you have to start paying your loans.
There's no coupon book no more, do they?
But during that time, you're gonna have to decide, like, can you make the payments on a standard repayment plan, or do you need to go into some type of income-based repayment plan? That's something that we've talked about in the past, and we probably need to have like an expert come on and talk more about that.
Right.
But in essence, you'll apply to whoever is your student loan servicer and say, listen, man, like this is how much I'm making from residency. I ain't got enough to make payments for my student loans to pay like the full amount. You know what I'm saying? So they will like hopefully decrease your payments and put you in some type of income-based repayment plan. And then that will kind of start you in the PSLF program, right? The Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, which is a great program. If you can get into it and you make, consecutive payments for 10 years, at the end of 10 years, all of your student loan debt is forgiven.
Right.
We didn't do that because that wasn't available for us when we were in residency. And I forgot how it worked out, but basically we just decided to pay off all of our student loan debt when we got out. But that's one thing to consider also is just, once you start your intern year and you get into it, you want to make sure that you get your student loan situation settled. You don't have to pay it off. You just need to know how are you going to start paying this off. And hopefully you get into like an income-based payment program.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is this is probably the time when you want to start thinking about retirement investment, right? So you're like, why should I start thinking about retirement investment? I'm just going into residency. Well, because you're going to be making itty litty bitty bit of money in residency, okay? And the stakes are low, right? So every single residency program should have some sort of 403B program. That's essentially your retirement savings program, okay? Some of them are going to match. Some of them are not. You want to start when the stakes are low with just a little itty bit of money, because it's easier to gamble with $100, or it's easier to gamble $100 than it is to gamble $10,000, right? Meaning that the small amount of income that you're making in residency, you want to start building that muscle of investing now, rather than saying, well, I'll just wait until I make six figures and then I'm going to put the big money into investment. Why would you do that, right? Because...
And then you throw on top of that, you're busy now.
Right.
You're now starting a new practice, or you're joining a new practice and you're learning your new craft.
Right.
You may be starting a new family. Like, it's going to be very difficult for you to pick up that skill of investing if you haven't flexed that muscle before. You know what I'm saying? Like this. Oh, right? See that? Be able to do this.
Put your arm down, Nii.
Right? So if you start as a resident, first of all, the money that you make, like, you have to look at it as you need money to live, but you also should be putting money away, either in savings or putting it in a way so that it can do some work for you, right? And one of the best ways is either maybe putting in some real estate, or investing in yourself, or maybe putting it in the stock market possibly, right? Without getting into too much specifics, but you should find a way to put some money aside to kind of grow for you also. And you should start flexing that muscle while you're a resident when the stakes are low. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. But we usually recommend starting at the very least with your 403B or an IRA, right? Like your retirement investment vehicles.
Yeah. So that IRA is something that is your own. Like, you have to set that up on your own. Whereas the 403B or some type of cash savings plan, that's usually associated with your residency program.
Yeah. So you got to go to HR.
Go to your human resources department, and they will, they will help you with that. The IRA, you'll have to go to like a Fidelity or a Vanguard.
Or a bank.
Or a bank, or even, what do you call those things, the smaller places?
What?
Credit unions,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you do that on your own. But all of these things that we're talking about, whether it's a 403B or an IRA, you get some tax savings from that also. Mm-hmm. So these are just things that you got to just start thinking about as you go into your intern year, or as you start working towards your intern year.
Yeah.
You ain't got to get it perfect, but you also don't want to ignore, right? Mm-hmm. And you could just take baby steps.
The last thing that I'm going to mention for this is,
because we need to wrap this up. Brother needs to work out.
So the last piece of advice I would give for especially your interns is make a plan.
What kind of plan?
Make an assessment and then make a plan. Don't come with no assessment without a plan.
What are you talking about, for taking care of patients?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Make a plan. Now is not the time, you're not a medical student anymore. Like, even medical students are expected to make a plan, but not as much as residents are, right? So make a plan. It could be the wrong plan. Make a plan. I'd rather you come with a wrong plan than come with no plan at all. Right? So make a plan. Whatever, your diagnosis is, your assessment is, make a plan.
And a plan is not, hey, I'm just going to talk to my attendant.
Yeah, the plan is not.
That's not a plan.
Yeah.
Make a plan. All right?
Make a plan. What would you do for this patient if the buck stopped with you?
Patient here with appendicitis.
You would not go and talk to your attending.
Give me a plan, yo. All right? Snap some antibiotics. Make them NPO.
Well, yes, exactly. Right? So make a plan. That's all. And the plan should be on paper first.
All right, y'all.
Whatever.
Listen, Don Marco too, congratulations on being an internal medicine doctor. And thank you for writing in. if you have any more questions, you could always DM us on Instagram or send us an email at, what's the email address for us?
No, we don't have an email address. And
Okay.
You keep saying this. You
All right,
got to
so
go to the website.
Go to the website, drneedarko.com.
/contact
and let us know what's the scoop. Yo, we appreciate everybody jumping on live with us. We're going to start doing this more often. And this is eventually going to be a podcast episode. So we just want to say shout out to y'all for doing that. And Don Marco, tell your friends about this show. All right?
Tell them to subscribe.
Tell them to subscribe. And everybody on here, subscribe. All right? We need the subscribers. And we need more people to view our videos. Come on now. And then also you can check us out on all the DSPs as well as all of the podcast hosts. All right. So DSPs are like the Spotify's, are like the Apple Music, YouTube Music, but then also on what's the other ones? Google Podcast doesn't exist anymore, but you know what I'm talking about. Wherever you listen to your favorite music or your favorite podcast, that's where you're going to find us at, yo. Yep. All right, y'all. We'll see you guys on the next one.
You're welcome, Don Marco.
Peace.
Oh, awesome.
Emily, thank you.